Hello everybody. Today we're going to feed our worms. It's Friday. So this is now my European nightcrawler brooder bin. We took a bunch of breeder size worms out, 250 breeder size worms out of here to make a breeder bin this week. But let's go and see what's happening. Maybe we got no worms. Oh, I lied. There's worms in here still. We didn't take them all out. They're very mixed up right now. But let's just have a look. There's some small ones. That's why I wanted to make a brooder bin. It will get way more active now with the new ones hatching. I mean, they're a month and a half old since we got them. And there's my turnip. It's getting squishy, but it's not squishy enough yet. There's still a fair few Europeans in here. And there's small ones. So that's what we want. We want the eggs to hatch. We've got some big worms in here, which will keep everything active. But we've got small worms. And we'll have a whole bunch more in a little while. That guy's not very big. Hey, let's give them a little food. Remember, we don't have as many active worms in here anymore, so let's pick an end too, and let's start this thing to be... Oh, there's a chunk of watermelon. Good place to pick. Let's start this in to be feeding in one end and moving everything the other. Moving stuff to the other end. And that will make, as it goes, it'll make our castings clean up at this end. Let's give him a chunk of pumpkin, and we're going to call that good for this feeding, because we stole all them other worms out of here. Okay, they will, and like I said before, I always start with my European nightcrawler bins to keep them clean, so I don't cross-contaminate. One. Now these guys are the breeder bin that we set up 2 days ago. 2 days ago. So there. Let's have a look. It's time to feed them anyways. Oh yeah, they're all mixed through. Good. That's what you want to see. They're down, they're mixed in, they're moving around, they're doing their thing. We're not going to disturb them a bunch because they're a breeder bin, right? So we're just going to throw a watermelon and a pumpkin in. And we're going to let them get at her. See? They're all mixing up, doing their things. You give them new bedding, like when you give breeders a new bedding, they really seem to go to town and get busy. And where you going, buddy? Turn around. Get back with the bunch. So we're just gonna do that. And you notice I keep them on one side of the bin so they're not all spread out so far. They'll stay in the bedding. They might go for a runabout, but they'll probably mostly stay in the bedding. Well, that's two. And yes, yes, I do use Kleenex and stuff that, I mean, they will eat anything organic, so paper and anything like that is, oh, pumpkin's growing here. Let's, now this is the, guys, cocoons and babies. If you remember last time, these guys were getting really, really active. Let's turn it this way for you. Forgot which way I had the camera. Okay, so they were getting pretty active in here. And they're still pretty active. I mean, they're really turning up the heat here. Quite a few. Okay, so there's a little one. Just turned pink. There's a cluster, or clue. I learned that a group of worms is called a clue of worms. Go figure. There's another clue. So they're busy. They're doing what we want them to do. They are well, there's a definite clue. There's a lot of them in there. So this bin is doing exactly what a brooder bin is supposed to do. It is making babies and consuming the food that we put in it. There's my turnip, and there's worms around it, and there's the stuff from right around it. So there's worms around that turnip. They're getting to it now. So we're going to leave it down. Grab some pumpkin. Give them some pumpkin. I'm going to grab some potato peels. We're going to give them some of that, because they are getting pretty active in here, so they can stand some more food. What the heck? Chunk of watermelon or two can't hurt, right? And sprinkle some eggshells on some of it. A, because we just pickled a bunch of eggs and need room to put more eggshells. And B, eggshells can't hurt worms. If anything, it will balance out the pH if my pH is wrong. So, there we go. And this stuff is nicely moist. Even this dry paper back here has got a little bit of moisture to it now. And I mean, we put quite a bit of paper in here last week. So, that's the guys' cocoons and babies are done. I'm trying to speed through this a little more and not do so much digging, taking so much time to dig, because, well, I think you guys get so far into the video and then you get tired of watching me. So I'm trying not to bore you to death. These are the brooder bin, Red Wiggler brooder bin from our previous breeder bin. So they just set this over here. There's some worms up on top. As you can see, Wow, this is our feed zone from last time, like right in here. Would you believe there was a time that I thought, this is not working? These guys are a lot of fun to check. A lot of fun to check. A lot of worms in there. Okay, let's not mess with them too much. We're going to give them a good feeding because there's a lot of worms in here. As mentioned before in our previous videos, we freeze all of our foods that we put through here. It helps break the cell walls, kills larvae or eggs of insects, and kind of makes it so I don't have to grind stuff up. Like one fella said, he puts everything through. I'm just gonna throw them Kleenexes in there. It's just better. One fella says he puts all his stuff through a blender, and I've seen some other worm farmers doing the same thing. I think that's part of a stem. We'll throw that on there. We've got to give some more bedding. So when I freeze my food, it releases the water in it. And I don't put much water into these bins once they're established. I have some mixed up if I need to. I mix it up with molasses and water. I say sugar water sometimes, but to me molasses is just sugar. But it's actually molasses water. And basically dechlorinated water that's sat long enough to for the chlorine to gas off. These are the fat guys. They're not a very interesting bin. The only interesting part of them is I'm interested to know why I don't see more worms show up. They've been in here for quite a long time. They're big. But I don't see many babies. In fact, there's a couple of big ones. There's a big one. They're kind of more over here. That guy might actually be a red wiggler, but I'm not going to. I think that one is a red wiggler. He is. He's big. Okay, we're going to wet this because I honestly think they're not doing anything, and being wet may spur them to get at it. I hope it spurs them to get at it, because they're not doing very much. I had a little bit of water in this bottle from something else, so I'm just mixing it so that there's a little more molasses in it. Give him a chunk of pumpkin while we're doing this. No, I'm not sure if these are, what kind of worms these are. They don't seem to act the same as the ENCs. They don't seem, well, they definitely don't act the same as the red wigglers, and they don't look at all like a red wiggler, except for that one. And I mean, if there's only one in the bin, there's only one in the bin, right? I'm not going to worry about it. But the funny part is I just don't ever see any babies showing up. Even with the few big ones in here, there should be some babies showing up. And there's just nothing. I mean, I've seen people start videos with 10 worms in a bin. And a couple months later, they've got a couple hundred, right? Or 100. 3-4 months later. They're not doing anything. I just don't see them doing anything. Okay, so not to hammer it to death, but this bin's boring. Oh, right. The little breeder bin. The little red wiggler breeder bin. Check him up, give him a feeding. Alright, so, yep. They're definitely in their feed zone, checking things out. Remember, we only set this up about a week ago. 10 days ago, something like that. Not going to bug them too much. Going to give them some more potato. There's a little worm on top of a big worm. And I do want these guys to stay in a zone where they can get together and mingle. Let's just call it a worm version of a singles bar or a dating site. So we got some pumpkin. And worms love pumpkin. Make sure your food is covered or you will have flies. Moisture's good in there. This paper is wet. There's a little bit of moisture on the top of the on the bottom of the plastic, and that is done. So take the tripod over here. Gotta get the big bunch out. Okay, let's have a look. See how I'm doing here. I'm trying this without an assistant. I see everybody else doing tripod stuff, so I try. Not sure how it's going to work out. Kind of enjoyed having the assistant for videography purposes, you know. It's hard to zoom in when you're down here. But we're just going to go with it for a little bit and see how it works. So this bin is our most active and oldest bin. This is the guys. And the guys have lots of worms. And there's like worms. As I pull this paper back, there is worms consistently between the layers, enjoying the time in the moisture, eating, setting up, laying eggs, eating paper. They're doing their thing. And 2 weeks ago, we harvested castings from here to there. Took a whole bunch out. And it was getting full. Now it's shrinking. And like all of this paper at this end, that's just basically paper. But that being said, there's worms down in the corners. There's worms in the bottom. They're working their way through. The moisture will make it wet. We're not gonna change too much up. Maintain the same thing. We feed this bin in a wedge system. So we feed it basically here. All the stuff moves this way. So that puts our castings down at this end that we're going to harvest next, right? This cleans up the castings down here, the paper and stuff. We kind of just roll anything big enough I take out and I put back on top. But when it gets small like this, I just roll it back. But this bin has to be aerated because there's so much activity in here, so much moisture in here, that stuff gets compacted. And it's just fun to play with the worms because there's more than a clue of worms. There was a good handful there. Yep. There's a lot of worms in here. I'm going to just go with this video the way it is right now and see how it looks when I put it together. Maybe I got to go back to my videographer person helping me, my assistant. But let's give it a try, because she's not as much into worms as I am. But there's a lot of worms. There's a lot of worms. One other thing, this time around, they didn't seem to have much stuff pushed up. But we only fed them on Saturday last week. Today's Friday, so they didn't have that one extra day. And there's been a lot of disturbance in the last 2 weeks in this bin, so maybe they just are settling back down. I am seeing a lot of juvenile worms and a lot of big worms and a lot of little worms. So I'm happy. Like I've always been saying the last few times, this is a very fun worm bin to check because it's so active. There's a handful of worms right in pretty much everywhere you look. There is worms by the handful. We started this bin in March of 2023 with 250 worms, a quarter of a pound of worms. I have taken worms out multiple times, picked red wigglers out of this to be my breeder bin twice, sent a group of worms for my grandson to start his worm farm. When we took him back, he was with us for a year, we took him back to stay with his mom. And so I sent him with his own worm farm, and he tells me it's doing very well. He loves worms. Kids love worms. Okay, so here is where my last food went in, and I mean, we're on the verge of having worm balls here. That's how many worms are in this bin. Like, that's a lot. That's all. Just way more than a clue of worms. There's my turnip in here. And it is definitely squishing out. I'm not going to mess with it too much because it smells like a turnip. Oh, yes. Guys, look at that. That's just on the edge of my feed zone. Like, they're in the outside of the food. They're in that chunk of melon. They are having a ball. And it's not as warm this time around as it was the last time. But there again, we've disturbed it a lot more this time. So it's feeding time at the ranch here. This worm farm is going to get a good feeding. But we're going to give them some eggshell. We're going to give them the rest of what's in here. Other than that one turnip and that one piece of melon rind, I do not see very much of anything we fed him this group in the last feeding left. So we're just gonna send it. We're gonna give some good amount of food here, and of course pumpkin. Watermelon. More pumpkin. That's the part about freezing stuff. It kind of freezes together, but you know what? Send it. It'll thaw. It'll do its thing. We'll give it some bedding. I'm just really happy with the way this worm bin is stepping up and going. I mean, we're December, the second week is December here now, so what are we there? I think we're the 8th or 9th, maybe the 10th, 9th. So, you know, this bin's 3, 6, 9 months old. And it's just doing phenomenal. And I've taken so much from this one. Like, I've made other worm bins out of it. Okay. Paperback. So, if you like what we're doing and the content we're providing and you enjoy what we're doing, give us a thumbs up, because if you give us a thumbs up, it brings us higher up in the YouTube algorithms. And then more people will see what we're doing. And I don't know. I think this is kind of catching on because my channel's getting a lot busier. That's really fun to check it, and I'm getting some good comments. Nothing really just really nice comments about people enjoying what's going on, and they think I'm doing a good job, and had an experienced worm farmer subscribe and comment and told me he thought I was doing okay in my channel. I don't know. It's just fun. We're having a lot of fun. So, there we go. So if you like what we're doing, as I said, subscribe, like, comment if you want. Tell me I'm crazy. Share it with people that you think would like it. And subscribe. Subscribing is going to make it what makes me get monetized, if it ever happens. But anyway, give me one of them if you want. Talk to you later. Have a great week.